Here we have the function x divided by x squared minus 16, and this is what the graph looks like. And then these two vertical lines, they call vertical asymptotes. And so to find the vertical asymptotes, we just set the denominator equal to 0. So this time we have two of them. And solve for x. And so we have x squared minus 16 equal to 0. Add 16 to both sides, we get x squared equal to 16. And then take the square root of both sides. And record it when we in solving equation, when we take the square root of both sides, we have to put a plus, minus in the front right here. Square root of x squared is x, and then this would be plus. This means that x is equal to plus or minus 4. And so the vertical asymptotes are x equal to negative 4 and x equal to 4. So this is the vertical line, x equal to negative 4, and this is the vertical line, x equal to 4. So these are called vertical asymptotes. And now we want to approach negative 4, where the vertical asymptote is, from the left and then from the right. And then we also want to approach the 4 here from the left and from the right. And these are called one-sided limits. And so let's look at the table values, and we'll see what happened to y as x approaches negative, x approaches negative 4 from the left. So as x approaches negative 4 from the left, y approaches what? That's what we want to know. And so here we're approaching negative 4 from the left side. So these numbers here, they are to the left of negative 4. But they are very, very close to negative 4, but they're to the left of negative 4. And the corresponding y values, they just get larger and larger in the negative direction. And so we can see that as x get closer and closer to negative 4 from the left, the y approaches negative infinity. Be negative infinity. So right here, we put negative infinity. And then the same thing here. Now we want to know as x approaches negative 4 from the right, and then what is happening to the y. And so here's the table of values. So these numbers, they are to the right of negative 4. And so we're getting closer and closer and closer and closer to negative 4. And the corresponding y values, they're just getting larger and larger and larger and larger and larger. So when x is negative 2, y it is 0.16. When x is negative 3, y it is 0.42. But when x is negative 3 point with this many nines, then y it is a very, very large number. So we can see that this is going to infinity. And now we'll do the same thing for 4. So we want to know what happens if we approach 4 from the left. So as x approaches 4 from the left, what happened to the y? Meaning x will be values that are to the left of 4. So we want to approach 4 from the left. So these values are to the left of 4. This is 3 point with this many nines. So it's a number very close to 4, but to the left of 4. And the corresponding y values, they're getting larger and larger, but in the negative direction. So that tells us that this is going to negative infinity. And now we'll approach 4, but from the right. So as x approaches 4 from the right, and then we want to know y approaches what? So these numbers are to the right. These x values right here, they are to the right of 4. So this number is very, very close to 4, but to the right of 4. So as x gets closer and closer to 4 from the right, the corresponding y values, they're getting larger and larger and larger and larger. So that tells us that this is equal to infinity and infinity. And many times we can just look at the graph and tell as x approaches negative 4 from the right, what happens to the y. And so right here, this is negative 4, and we're getting closer and closer to negative 4 on the left side. The graph is going down, and so that tells us that the y approaches negative in this one. The y approaching, x approaching negative 4 from the left. Then the y approaches negative infinity because the graph is going down. And then as x approaches negative 4 from the right, and so this is negative 4 right here, and so start from the right and get closer and closer. We see that the graph is going up. So that tells us that the y approaches positive infinity. And same thing here, this is 4 right here. And then if we approach 4 from the left side, the graph is going down and down. So that tells us that the y approaches negative infinity. And then this is 4, and if we approach it from the right side, the graph is going up. So that tells us that the y approaches infinity.